Hey, everybody. Welcome to Unscripted for Wednesday, April 29th. I'm Pastor Chris with Pastors Matt and Pastors Paul. And today we have a special guest. We thought this would be very appropriate. We've been talking with our community partners for the last few weeks, and a very, very good, dear community partner of ours, especially not just with HolyCross, but also our partner at HolyCross Lutheran Academy. We have today the Executive Director of Lutheran Counseling Services, Megan Meisler. Megan, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, round of applause. Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me. I've been watching you guys. This is fun. I'm so excited.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you. So I here's the other thing. Before we get to business here, now I'm friends with Megan on social media, and I've noticed that she's been out. She just has not been hanging out at home. This girl has gone kayaking. She's been hitting the water. And I want to be a little bit more like Megan and get out there on the boat and have some fun. But you've been getting your exercise in, having some good.
My husband and I got kayaks for Christmas. It was the best purchase ever. It's been awesome.
Awesome.
That's awesome. You know, a lot of people get kayaks for Christmas and they stay in the garage. So you guys have been, that's awesome. Also, doesn't your husband coach at St. Luke's?
He does. Yes. He coaches volleyball, and my daughter plays club volleyball. So we're in volleyball with the draws, which is why we can kayak, because we would be like at volleyball tournaments if it wasn't quarantine. So yeah, he does.
Yeah. I'm missing, you know, we at HolyCross, I coach sports at HolyCross Lutheran Academy as well. And right now we would be in the midst of flag football season, you know, and having all that fun and losing to St. Luke's at flag football like we do every year. But besides that,
I thought this was the year you were going to win.
This was the year, Megan. This was the year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be like UCF, and I'm just going to claim that we're state champions this year. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to print the banner right now.
It was stolen from you, your championship.
All right. So a couple things. You have worked out at our school, and you've been out there, and I want to bring up a scenario. So I have two kids. Matt's got a kid. Paul had about 20 kids. He's got, but they're all gone now and running churches and doing other things. But for those of us who still have kids in the home, this is a different dynamic, like completely. Yeah, I'm talking about the COVID. I'm talking about, you know, we have in our house 4 people at home. That are 2 of us working from home. My wife kind of goes back into the office sometimes, but then I've got 2 kids that have to Zoom with their teachers, and we have a 1,300 square foot home. So it's not like my 2 kids are literally right outside a door here, you know, doing their homework right now. And I have one child who would like to go back to school, but is doing pretty well. And then I have another child who is exactly like me, who's an extrovert, who is like, oh my gosh, when are we going to be done with this, Dad? And it's interesting because I can use my pastor superpowers, what my kids see through. And I can say, this is not the way that it's always going to be. Remind them that this is temporary in the grand scheme of life. But it only goes so far. And I'll let Matt and Paul add on. But my first question for you, Megan, is those of us with kids at home, what advice can you give us to kind of, and I know this is unprecedented, but what advice can you give us to kind of help them cope with the isolation and not seeing all the friends that they've seen and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we know that socializing is an important development in kids. I have 3 kids at home right now, and 2 very extroverted and 1 very introverted. And I am seeing probably what their teachers see all the time. Like, I didn't know my introverted actually spoke at all, and he never stopped talking. And then my extroverted girls, are FaceTiming all day long with friends and just getting a lot more creative about how to interact with people. I'm finding myself saying to parents a lot where, punishments would normally be to take the devices right now. I'd encourage you not to, because peer development is so important. We can, limit screen time, but maybe be a bit more lax on the screen time that it's actually encouraging them to engage with their peers. But I think you said it earlier, is like, introverts are doing so great right now, and us extroverts, we're dying. So I get a little bit more concerned as we re-enter, we restart life, what it's going to be like for introverts, because we're going to have to be back out in the world. So I would encourage you that, your children. I know my son, he needs his downtime. He needs his alone time, and we still are making sure that he gets that. But we're having to be more intentional about pulling him out into the socializing pieces. And the same thing with our extroverted girls, we're trying to be creative about how they engage with their peers. Intentionally having the conversation of who have you talked to today? Have you talked to another person that is the same age as you today in some way or fashion? St. Luke's too, doing the Zoom calls. That's where my kids go. And it's been great to see 20 second graders on a Zoom call is insane. But so needed for them. So I would be intentional about asking your kids, how have they engaged with people in their life? And then how are you able to set up those things for them? Because that's very, very important.
Awesome. Yeah. If you just joined us, we're talking with Megan Miesler, who's the executive director of Lutheran Counseling Services. And great idea to be intentional with our kids, especially, extroverted, introverted. They each want, that was going to be my next question was, my boy, who is a little bit more introverted. I mean, he would be great to just be on, YouTube and go to Xbox and, send a couple of messages, and he'll send a couple of messages, and that's all he needs, okay, I got my communication. And so that was going to be my next question is how, when we're so cooped up, how do you monitor screen time, or, and yeah, I think you had the answer there. We can be a little bit more lenient than, when they were in school, and still give them their own time. That's good. But Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the safety factors we always say for adolescents especially, and we've had to reiterate it in our home, is I don't encourage FaceTime or those visual go-to meetings or whatever to be done in bedrooms. So if it's to do outside and have a FaceTime chat, you can still have your privacy, but not be in a bedroom. So there's just still some boundaries that we should be teaching our kids about technology in that way. But then also understanding that right now you might be your only kid's socialization some days. And so I found myself this morning having to have a lot of patience and listen about some random thing that I really don't care about, because they needed a place, to speak it. And there are days I'm better at that, and there are days I'm not very good.
Hopefully they don't watch this show.
Oh, they probably will. They watch everything.
Well, and and Matt was saying that his daughter's actually thriving during this, and obviously even my son even wants to go back to school, but he's not doing bad.
That was early on too. What we discovered a little more long term is that I think she's made some good use of the time as far as she's started doing yoga and she's doing a lot with her music and things like that. But school has been tough for her. The whole doing everything online is not how she likes to learn at all. And so, my wife, I'd say we, but it's basically all Lana, like has had to pick up the slack in kind of, with the school side of things.
Yeah, that was
it's hard. Like
you guys mentioned that we had 4 kids growing up, and our oldest one, Sarah, for the first 5 years she was in school, every year she said, "Can't I be homeschooled? I just want to stay. I want to be at home." And her mother and I both knew that neither one of us could take her for 24 hours a day.
Right. And vice versa too, probably. Like that's always been I want to be homeschooled. Yeah, no, you don't. No, you really don't. Know what that'd be like.
I think there are some good pieces though that are coming out of this. Like my home situation is we're not home with them. Like my kids are home on their own all day. My husband works for Lowe's Home Improvement, so he is essential worker and he's gone all day. And there's not enough bandwidth at my house for me to do telehealth therapy and for them to do all of their classes. So I come to the office. So in some ways, like it's been good at teaching them more independent skills. Like my second grader probably would have never known how to operate an email at this early of an age yet, but she's having to discover that skill, and her typing skills are improving. So there are some pieces that I'm hoping children come out of this a bit more independent, because we as parents can sometimes completely enable our kids and do a lot of things for them, which hopefully now at this time we're not as much. So we think there's going to be some positive growth areas that come out of this. But like giving parents permission to make their children more independent right now, I think is a great skill that kids need at any stage of development.
Absolutely.
I just think when they go back to school next year, there's going to be a whole lot more kids who carry the one,
I can't do Common Core math. I cannot do it. I cannot.
No. Oh no, that's been the biggest issue here. Like, my boy in 6th grade is doing geometry. I didn't do geometry until I was like in 10th grade.
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey, can you help me with my geometry?" No.
In the kitchen the other day, she was doing some science experiment and talking about, I don't know, something. And she's like, "Don't you know this? Don't you have a master's?" I was like, what? Plastic bag experiment?
Yeah, not in this, I don't.
No. That's the thing that always gets me, where I have to like watch didn't you go to college for like 8 years? Don't you know? Like, yes.
Yeah, I did 30 years ago.
Yeah. And I still didn't take your 6th grade geometry. All right. I have a couple of questions. So not just for children. And again, we're talking to Megan Meisler, who's the executive director of Lutheran Counseling Services, longtime partner of HolyCross. All right. So here's a couple of questions. Number one, I notice still that with adults, sometimes there's still this misconception about counseling. And, growing up with like my grandparents, there's no way they would have ever gone to counseling. They should have gone to marriage counseling, but there's no way they would. That was for people that were mentally ill and you didn't go, and my flip side is I think everybody should go to a week of counseling every year. Like I'm the opposite of that. I think you want to talk about how we can make America better. Let's give everybody a week of counseling. That would help. But with all that, I guess my question is, do you still see some of that? Like, is it still with people in their 40s and 50s? Do they come to you? So let me give you an example. I feel like sometimes in marriage counseling, people come to me when it's like very, very, very late in the game. Like it's like they're down by 28. There's 18 seconds on the clock, and they're trying to figure out how to score 3 touchdowns and save with a Hail Mary pass. I'm like, man, if you just would have come here 2 years ago, we might have been able to help you out. I'm wondering, do you kind of see that? And then with adults right now who are having some issues, because they're going through this whole COVID thing and they're shut in. You have some opportunities there at Lutheran Counseling Service. Talk maybe a little bit about that too. So there's a couple of questions we can work through.
I think we definitely see people coming to counseling late in the game. I agree with you. And most insurances now, if you didn't know, like your EAP, people's EAP are upping it to like 10 free sessions. So I would encourage any check with your insurance, because most of you get now, especially with COVID, like 10 free counseling sessions. And if not, then we can work with you for sure. But there's a stigma there. I wish there wouldn't always be a stigma about mental health, because really at Lutheran Counseling Services, we're just trying to create safe places for people to change their story, like safe places where you can talk about things that have gone on. And in all reality, this sounds bad, but I hear the same stories. So your struggle isn't unique. Like you're not the only one going through it. And I think a lot of people need to hear that message more often. And clients that I have right now who have struggled with anxiety all of their life, I have this one client and she's like, I'm doing so great right now because other people are as anxious as I am and I feel normal. And it's just like this freeing, like freeing peace. And I'm like, that's awesome. Let's share that with everybody, because it's not just COVID that brought that on. We have all felt that way. So I think we just need a little bit more freedom to be authentic. So I'll tell you a couple of things that we're doing. But one, you guys are like my inspiration. I've been watching you, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'm going to try something similar to what you guys are doing. I'm going to do what we're going to call authenticity. So I'm going to interview some people and just have authentic conversations about mental health to just reduce the stigma around talking about, I think so often we just want to say how great life is and how wonderful life is and how God is good all of the time. And I believe that he's good all the time, but I also believe that he takes us through journeys where life doesn't feel good. And it's okay to be authentic and say like, this is horrid and I'm stuck in a house with all my children, and who would have ever, think that that's wonderful. So we're going to do that in the month of May. We also have a free call-in line. So you can call from anywhere. So even if you don't live in Orlando, if you don't live in Florida, you can call our free call-in line Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays and talk to a therapist for free for up to 15 minutes. That's something that we're offering. We have a lot of free virtual groups on our social media pages, some for clergy, for healthcare workers, grief and loss educators, just trying to provide a lot of resources. And then we have an older adult program, and we're not able to go into all of our older adult facilities right now. So we've been producing like tips and videos. We do like a Friday meditation, a Monday self-care video. So we're just trying to put some resources out there for people. And then we're offering counseling. We do pretty much, I'd say like 99.9% telehealth right now. Some people have some safety issues at their home and they can't find a safe, quiet space to get on a counseling appointment. And so we still do have our office in Winter Park open, but most of it is done via telehealth. So we have therapists available to meet with you. We have grant funds that help supplement the fees of clients too, so that income is not a barrier. We don't want your finances to be a barrier. And we have partnerships like HolyCross and other places that help to support those ministries. So trying to like throw tons of things out there and see what sticks. I was on a call this week and was told that as we're coming out of this, it's predicted that there will not be enough mental health care workers to respond to the mental health need that we're going to see after COVID has gone wherever it's going to go. So the idea that we need to up people to, be to what I call be authentic listeners, to validate what people are feeling and not be fixers. But we're just going to see that that's going to become a great need in our communities, to have more like Stephen ministers, right? People who are trained to listen and not to hoping that we can be helping that conversation in the future.
Wow.
Did you have a number you wanted to give out for that hotline you were talking about? What's that?
Yeah. So our hotline is a 407 number. And then we are grabbing an 800 number here soon, but it's 407-644-4692 extension 5. And then we also have an email. It's just oncall@lcsfl.com. Sometimes it feels easier to email or send a message instead of picking up the phone and talking to a human being. So we welcome you to email, and we can schedule a time to chat with you. Or if you just have a question or something that's come up, we welcome you to use that on-call email as well.
So that was 407-644-4692 extension 5.
I got it, by the way, Johnson.
Okay, I was going to put it in the text thing, but if you want to do that, that'd be great. Yep. Fantastic. Cool. Okay. Thank you. And then, so did you guys do teleconferencing before? Had you, I'm sorry, telehealth prior to this, Megan?
Yeah, so we've had a partnership with the Office of International Missions for the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. So we've been doing telehealth for the past 5 years to missionaries overseas.
Nice.
So we've had a platform that we've used for a while now. And it was mostly Rick and myself, offering those services via telehealth. And we continue to do that for the missionaries. But now, honestly, the laws and the things are changing all the time. So we can offer telehealth to anybody, regardless of where you live, which is new in this crisis time. So yeah, I have clients in Nebraska and New York and Uganda and China. And so, yeah.
Wow. So is that going to be something that you'll probably continue doing? Because I'll just say, we do have people up in Lake Mary, and you guys are in Winter Park, but you come up here. But there's some people that, I'm thinking students and stuff too, that might not be able to hop in a car and drive down to Winter Park. So that might be an option for them even after this crisis. Is that correct?
Yes, most definitely. And we were talking as a staff. I do believe that insurance companies and things aren't going to pull back funding telehealth. I think we've probably seen a huge transition here, especially for mental health care. And there have been a lot of more platforms opening up to do telehealth. And so I think we're going to continue to see insurances and other people funding that support. It just makes it more accessible. And, sometimes you just feel safer not having to be right in an office and talking to somebody. So, yeah. Oh,
I think, I 14 years ago, I went to Lutheran Counseling Services. I grew up in a really rough home, and they really helped me your counselors helped me kind of cancel some of the lies that I had believed for so long about myself. And so I'm a huge fan of what you guys do, and I'm a huge fan of counseling in general. I recommend that so much. So what I've heard is that, and I want to commend you for this, because I think sometimes the toughest step, whether you walk into a church or whether you walk into the counselor, is that first step in the door. That is so intimidating. The first time, and you guys were so sweet, but even walking in the first time, you're like, and I think this kind of knocks down that walking in the door the first time. And if I could have a 15-minute conversation, with you or one of your counselors, online, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see myself having a longer conversation with this person. So I think that was brilliant. And I know, Paul, what did you want to say?
I was going to say that we're getting on our health platform, on our insurance platform, we added the teledoc for all of our employees, part-time and full-time. It didn't really cost us that much. And we're finding that they use that an awful lot. It seems to work out very well. They don't have to wait in the doctor's office. They can get a prescription right there, and it works out really good.
That's great. Actually, it's open to family members as well through us, Paul.
Yeah. Right.
I'll tell you, the one thing they don't like you calling them up about is you have no idea what to eat for dinner and you just call for a recipe, those teledocs. They don't like that. They don't like that.
Yeah. They don't really like that.
No.
Yeah. Doc, I'm feeling these cramping pains in my stomach. I think I might be hungry.
Do you have a recipe? Do you have a good recipe for chicken parmesan, Doc? And they hang right up on you. Okay, so it's going to be a while probably before you get back to seeing all your clients back in the office there, I'm sure, which is unfortunate. I love this idea that you guys are doing the telehealth. That's fantastic. And we put on our Facebook page and we'll put on our website as well. Once again, Megan Miesler from Lutheran Counseling Services, they're offering free 15-minute counseling sessions at 407-644-4692, extension 5. And I think that's Monday through Wednesday. Is that right, Megan?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Monday through Wednesday.
Monday through Wednesday.
And the email address again was?
The email address is oncall@lcsfl.com.
Awesome. All right. Any last questions for Megan?
I'm wondering, Megan, we've been talking here among the three of us about new hobbies or things that we picked up while we've been here at home more. Is there anything you guys have started new that's kind of fun?
Well, my husband and I laid pavers in the backyard because
no, he said fun.
We have a lab Great Dane, and he has torn up our backyard. So laying pavers, and he doesn't bring as much dirt in. So this is fun for a mother who has all these children and 2 dogs that just have dirt everywhere. But no, then kayaking for sure. And I did a puzzle. So I won't do whatever puzzle you were talking about before. But I did.
I just have not got into this puzzle thing. Every day I see that Paul's, finishing another 12,000 piece puzzle. And I'm like, how long did it take this man to do this puzzle here? I don't have the patience for that.
I do that, Johnson, mainly because I'm trying to limit my own screen time. As you know, I could watch movies 24 hours a day, my personality. And so I'm trying to budget that, and balance it out with some other things that may tax my mind a little bit more.
Gotcha.
If I really get bored, I may even start reading books.
Books? What are you, going to college? Just kidding. All right.
Come on, Paul, nobody reads anymore.
Yeah,
I know.
Get an
Even if you want
book,
books, you do Audible or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't know. You got to talk to my wife. She clicks them through one a week. She's just clicking them off these days.
She's 12 times smarter than the rest of us. So what do you expect?
Yeah. That's
all
true.
Right. Hey, Megan, thank you so much for joining us. And I made a deal with Megan that she would come on our program, and I'm going to come on her program and tell her all of my deepest, darkest secrets. So that's what I'll do.
Good luck with that.
You guys should all watch. It's going to be so fun.
Yes. Megan Miesler with Lutheran Counseling Services. Thanks again so much, and God bless you. Take care.
Bye. We're good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Now she's gone. We can talk about her.
Janice Baszler said some people still read. I know they do.
Actually, I read a ton. I do read like ebooks on my iPad, but I actually am always reading something. A lot of fiction for me. So
I honestly, I listen to audiobooks because I remember them so much better. Like, I don't know what it is. I wonder if I would have got tested in high school, if I would have had like attention deficit disorder or something. I don't know. Because I'll read and I'll get through like 3 pages and I'm like, I don't remember when I just read the first 2 pages, you know? But I found that with like audiobooks, like I retain a lot of it just by hearing it. I guess I just learned better by hearing or watching. I've always been better. Like if I had a lab where I had to do something hands-on, I retain that so much more than just, a regular class where I had to go rip through a book. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anywho.
I don't know. I think that's sort of biblical. Doesn't it say, how will they know without hearing? Or how will
right. Faith comes from hearing.
Right there. That's right. Faith comes from hearing.
Faith comes from an Audible subscription.
That's right.
That's it.
It doesn't come from reading, guys. It doesn't come from reading. It comes from hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, even the stone tablet got broken. You know what I'm saying? 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
Oh man, good times. Hey, Paul, real quick.
Yeah.
So I know we got other people watching as well, but I am going to call upon you because I am going back and forth on this whole floor thing. I had a flood, and now I've got about 40% of my carpet ripped up in that bedroom because I have to move all the big furniture around. It's a real pain. But turns out that 40% of the carpet on your floor doesn't look all that good. Turns out, I think I'm going to have to rip it all up and put in. So I had to get some other house things. So I made one of my few trips the week to Lowe's the other day and looked on a bunch of stuff. So we might have we might have a mission trip down the street from your house.
So Johnson, I put in a laminate floor once, one of those floating laminate floors. I don't know how that would be for your bathroom, but if you're talking about your bedroom,
I'm talking about my bedroom.
That ended up looking really nice, and it really wasn't that hard. About all you need is a decent table saw, and you're good to go. And it goes down pretty easy. I mean, I'm not handy when it comes to things like that, and I was able to do it.
Hey, no. Time out. If we had to rank each other on handiness, Paul would be a 10, you'd probably be a 6, and I'd be about a 1.5 to 2. If we were in the Stone Age or like the prehistoric age, I would have no discernible skill set. Like if it was not for being able to talk, I don't know what my job would be. I would be useless during caveman times. I could fish. That's it. Yeah. I would fish.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Okay. That's it.
That's a valuable skill in caveman times or the apocalypse. Either one.
But if we're building a caveman hut, you're not coming to me. But very, very few skill.
Seriously about that floor, the laminate that he talked about is they call it click. It clicks together and floats over the floor, which means it's not really fastened down to the floor. And it usually has a pad that you put down underneath it. And
the one I did had a pad you put underneath it.
Yeah. After you put those down, they really are actually nicer to walk on than I've got the wood floor, in the living room and the bedroom. And it's hard because it's affixed to the concrete, and it's like walking on concrete. But when you get one of these that has the foam underneath it, it's not that the floor really moves. You don't feel quite as hard what you're walking on.
Is that a lot more expensive?
It's more expensive.
It wasn't expensive when I did it.
Really?
So Johnson, we've had a couple comments. First, Chris Kutcher says 1.5 is stretching it.
Oh, he's right. You know what though, Kutcher? Jill brings up a good point. I grow my own food.
That's right. And then Roger Milligan said, Pastor Chris, there are 3 kinds of learners: visual, audio, and kinesthetic. But I got to confess to you, Johnson, when I first glanced down at that very quickly, I read it as visual, audio, and knucklehead. And I thought he was making yeah.
Roger, no way, man. Roger's a good guy. He would never call me a knucklehead. Coocher would, but not Roger. Yeah, man, that's funny. So, okay. Well, and the Coochers apparently are very good at laying floor. The problem is Paul. I live in Pastor Paul's old house, and you built that bedroom back there, didn't you, Paul?
No, they had built it before I bought it. But it's 25 by 25. That's not a small bedroom.
That is the only part. Is some amazing part of the reason we bought that house is because the master bedroom is so big.
Yeah, you and your wife can actually live there, and the rest of them can have the rest of the house.
Oh, yeah,
that's right.
We have
up in there.
We have a circus. You can have an elephant walk around. It's amazing. No, but 25 by 25. So what is that? What is that? 500 square feet? Ish.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So 500. It's about 500.
Wrong guy.
But I'm saying, even if that's the thing. A lot of this stuff is like, even if it's $2 a square foot, you're talking about $1,000 to, redo that room.
That's 625 square feet, my friend. 25 by 25.
Okay, 625. Okay, so right. I mean, how much is it to just put hay down at this point?
Well, and just about anything that you get, like you said, $2 a foot is pretty darn cheap. That's pretty cheap for anything you put on the floor. But if you kind of like the naked look, I would really pursue that epoxy paint that Kevin puts down, because I think you can do that for about $3 or $4 a square foot, probably. And it'll really look good, and you'll have something that not everybody has, it'll be a little bit different.
Yeah. There's still, that's still crazy though. You're still talking about $2,400, for one room.
Yeah. What else are you going to do with your stimulus check?
I still haven't got a stimulus check. Have you?
No.
So we got approved. Like they said, we're going to get it, but we still haven't got it yet.
Oh, you mean they told you it's coming?
Yeah, there's a little site you can go to and check on it, and it'll tell you about it. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to spend it all on a floor.
You got your eye on a bigger TV, do you?
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to put a 65-inch TV in all the rooms. No, I don't know. I don't want to also be one of those guys that as soon as you get it, like you spend your entire stimulus check on a floor. Like what?
Yeah.
Especially when just up the street they've got.
You're putting it right back in the economy.
What's that, Paul?
I said, especially when right up the street you got all that great fish and beef you could buy.
Exactly. No doubt. I'd rather eat it than spend it on a floor. Oh man. Okay, we're getting out of control. What's the
you can take it and go eat at Ruth Chris.
Somebody just asked me, did we get approved yet for that loan, or do I have to send more hate mail to people? Does anybody know?
Yeah, we got approved for the PPP loan.
Get approved
for the church and school. Yeah, we got it.
Check your email every once in a while, Johnson.
What's that? All right, will do. Hey, look at us. All right.
So tonight I'm going to do at 5:30. I'm going to start a Bible study, and I decided we're going to do probably 5 weeks on the book of Esther.
Oh, you really changed your mind up there, buddy.
Yes, I did.
You were going to do John, then you were going to do angels.
And that was me that was going to do John, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Matt wants to do John, so I wasn't do that. But I thought of angels. But then when I started researching it to put together my Bible study, I ended up ordering an ebook on it by David Jeremiah, so I want to read that before I do the before I do the angel Bible study, because I think he's got a lot of cool things to say.
That's interesting that you brought him up. I read some of his stuff, and he's pretty charismatic. But I liked his prayer journal and his devotion. I really, really like that. And so he was at the Amway Arena, and I ended up going to go see him at the Amway Arena. And like the whole thing was just an infomercial to buy his stuff. I was so bummed.
Did you have to pay to go too?
No, it was free.
Oh.
But I mean, they took an offering and then they tried to sell books. And I'm just like, man, some of these church conferences you go to, it's like,
yeah. All
right.
Everyone's got something to sell except us.
Wait a second, Matt. Hey, why don't you tell them about your new book? No, I'm just kidding.
It's a good time to mention.
So Pastor Paul and I will be doing a Bible study on Esther tonight. Confession. That is not, if I was in Jeopardy and I was being quizzed on Esther, I would probably not make the $800,000 question. So I'm glad that I will be joining you tonight, Paul. Not one of my strongest books. All right, cool. Go. All right. What else do we have? Do we have any verses for today? Cricket.
Yeah.
Is Matt,
you got a verse? He's frozen there.
Matt froze.
We could do a verse of the day. I still was holding on for you.
We're losing it.
I don't know. Can anyone hear me?
Now I can.
Can you? Oh, that's weird.
Oh, isn't that funny? We asked Matt for some verses.
Yeah, that's weird. You froze for me a little bit, but yeah.
Isn't that something?
I know, right? So I was saying that I'm still holding on to the verse I'm going to preach on this weekend in case we want to talk about that tomorrow.
We'll do that tomorrow.
I did look at the normal verse of the day.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. So I looked at the normal verse of the day from Bible Gateway, and it is from Job 19, verse 25. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will stand upon the earth. And I always like to add the next two verses because I always thought they were pretty cool. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. So good post-Easter verse, good ancient reference to the resurrection, because I believe Job is the oldest, as far as when it was written, the oldest book of the Bible.
Yes, it is.
So, already a reference there to the resurrection that, he's saying, I'll see God. And he didn't just mean in a spiritual way, but in the flesh with his own literal physical eyes, he'll get to see the Lord, and what comfort that he takes in that. And that is a comfort we all take from that Easter message. Paul, did you?
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, was that it's one of the oldest books, or it is the oldest book. And he does have that reference, which is undeniably talking about seeing God with his own eyes. And, we just kind of glibly talk every once in a while about, oh yeah, when I get to heaven, I'll be in a glorified body. And, I've always wondered about that, where it says, you'll have this glorified body, so like, will I be 29 again and I'll have a 29-inch waist? Or, what's the glorified body going to be,
Yeah.
Will I finally have a nose that's not crooked, and things like that. And, but I think the excitement that you get when you hear that ancient writer say, I will see God with my own eyes, that's very personal, and it really goes to my heart. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah.
Actually, that's a really interesting subject too. It's a little not quite devotional like we try to be in these little segments, but still the question of what is the resurrection body going to be like, and really the best and pretty much the only example we have of that is, of course, Jesus. The first fruits of the resurrection. And what we see with him is we see he was changed enough that people had trouble recognizing him at first. And yet it was still undeniably him. Like he had the scars from the nails in his hands still, and from the spear in his side. So, we're not going to be some alien thing. I'm still going to be me. You're still going to be you, but just without sin. And so that's going to change how we look. So we'll still be us, but in a different way. And we just don't exactly know what that's going to be. We'll be somehow recognizable, but yet we'll also look different.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the one thing that we don't have to comment a lot on, but I've had a couple of people come up to me and say, do you think the coronavirus is, because we've distanced ourselves as a world from God, and people have brought up the whole Job thing with me too, like that Job, God allowed Job to go through this suffering, and I realize that this is you could talk 2 hours about that, but God did allow Job to go through some suffering in what appears to just kind of be like a bet with the enemy.
Right. Well, I was going to say though, the irony of that is that it wasn't, people say like, oh, is it some kind of punishment because we've drawn away from God? That happened to Job because he was close to God. It wasn't
that's true.
Because he had drawn away. It was because he was actually really faithful. And I don't know. I always go back to me. This is, for the most part, it's and obviously I don't know the mind of God, but for the most part, I think this is just a consequence of living in a sinful world. And part of that for me too is part of that question is based on the assumption that we've drawn farther away from God. I'm not sure we have. I mean, and what I mean by that is not that we're doing great today as far as our righteousness and our relationship with God, but I'm saying, like, I'm not sure it was any better 20, 30, 50 years ago. It certainly wasn't any better 100 years ago, are we drawing further away from God, or are we just as far away and as much of stubborn sinners as we always have been? I tend to fall on that kind of, thing,
Yeah. And that's sort of where I go too, Matt, when people want to when they want to quote the fathers of this country as these great Christian guys,
right.
And yet when you read their writings, they were just like the rest of human beings, making up God to fit their own mindset.
Right. And also some of whom owned slaves.
Right.
Like, you can't tell me that was better.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to look at life. But it is the natural way is to say, I am the most important thing in this world. Mm-hmm. And everything revolves around me, including my God, which is why when people have an image of God, they basically have an image of themselves taken to a higher level of some sort, not a whole nother being or way of existing, which is what really God is. When we say he's eternal, that takes him out of any kind of human realm. I mean, there's really no human characteristics to him,
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, the Bible ascribes some, but that's only so that we can have a way to relate and understand, Yeah.
The eyes of God, the hands of God.
Right. Or just ascribing emotions, human emotions to them, like jealousy and anger and things like that, But also that's why Jesus became incarnate in the flesh, because in that way, he really was like us,
Right.
And really did experience what we experience.
The one thing
I'll cling so special.
The one thing I'll cling to during all this is like, I can't say for certain that, Satan started COVID, right? Or whether it came from the broken world that originally came from, like, it all came from Satan. All the evils of this world came from the fall, somehow. But the thing that I know for sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that God is good all the time and that he makes good things happen out of bad situations that Satan has created and that the broken world has created as well. And so God is doing amazing things, even in the midst of this brokenness, even in the midst of the pain of COVID, like even in the midst of all this, a good God is still doing amazing things. And I have to remind myself of that and other people that I'm around, that God is still active and working through his word, through his sacraments, through all those things,
Right. And that never changes, really.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we went long today. Tonight, 5:30 p.m. Join us for Pastor Paul's Bible study on Esther. I'm going to walk down to your...
want to mention, Chris, do you want to mention to them too that we've kind of talked about it, and regardless of what the governor says in the next day or two, we're going to have Sunday the way we have the last few weeks?
Oh, I thought you were going to announce something that I was not ready to announce. Didn't it sound like that, Matt? No matter what the governor says, we are meeting at 8, 9:30.
Yes. No, and we did talk about that. And yes, yeah. So this Sunday, we'll still stream services like normal, assuming that the stay-at-home order gets lifted. Not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, we'll do drive-up communion again. And then after that, by then we'll know even a little bit more how things are going and decide if we want to start actually opening up the church to having in-person services again. Yeah. So, but this week it'll be like normal, just streamed, no communion. Next Sunday, the following Sunday, it'll be also streaming only, but we will open it up to drive-up communion at 11. And then the week after that, we might be back. Don't know yet. Too soon to tell.
Right. But if we're back, well, of course, we're going to adhere to, people sitting appropriate distance. We'll eliminate, handshakes, things like that.
I'll figure that out.
You'll still get double guns from Matt. But other than that, I don't. Woo! All right. So we'll see you tonight at 5:30. You want to end us with a prayer there, Shooter?
I will.
Yeah, man.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I got it.
Got it.
Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day that we have, for the beauty of this day, and for the wondrous things that you show us each and every day. We pray, Lord, that your hand would go with us as we go, watch over us, protect us, and bring us safely together again. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right. Thanks for joining us. We will see you. God bless you. We're praying for you. Let us know if you need anything, and we'll see you either tonight at 5:30 or tomorrow for Unscripted 1:30. God bless.
Very good.